Hello class, this is Mr. Sims. Here we have day 5 of combining of rational numbers. This would be page, well it's not numbered, but it's really page 45. It doesn't have a number at the bottom of the page. Move this down a little bit. And today's lesson objective. I can combine rational numbers. So when we think about what is a rational number, we're going to have that discussion in class at the beginning about what a rational number is. But basically, it's any number that, if you think about somebody that's acting rationally, well, I'll talk about that in class anyways. So we'll move on to example number 1. Real-world connection to combining rational numbers. So here's a real, suppose a 7th grader's birthday is today. So write an equation, use a number line to model your answer. How old was she 3.5 years ago? All right. So if you think about what it means to 3.5 years ago in the past would mean that if we're referring to negative numbers and positive numbers, that would be negative 3.5. Right? So we would have 12 minus 3.5, or really what's happening is we're going to combine a positive 12 with a negative 3.5. Right? And when the signs are different, here's the thing, all the rules for integers apply to rational numbers. If the signs are the same, you add and keep the sign. If the signs are different, you subtract and take the sign of the larger. Well, here we've got different signs. The 12 is positive. This minus 3.5 really means that 3.5 is negative. All right, now on a number line, we could make this work pretty good. So here's 0. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So here's 12. Right? So she's 12 right now. 3.5 years ago. So we go back 1, we go back 2, we go back a 3, and we go back a half. And where does that put us? That puts us at 5, 6, 7, 8.5 years old. Right? There is also something about, and I'll show you individually in class as well, of how we can actually subtract those. And I think in the past you might have thought that you would have to make this an improper fraction, then get a common denominator. But whenever you have a whole number and you're taking away a fraction from it, okay, well, what's easiest is just take off to the side here the 12 minus the 3, which is equal to 9, and then that half. Because this minus 3.5 means that you're taking away 3 and you're taking away a half. So 9 minus a half is 8.5. All right, we're going to cross out down here at the bottom where we have the properties of operations. I accidentally put this in the wrong spot. This is really the next lesson. So there's example number 1. So here's example number 2. Just some more scenarios of combining rational numbers. Find the following sum and represent it on a number line below. All right, so we've got sum basically combined. We've got a negative 2 1/2. We have a plus 5. We have two different signs, which means that we're going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger. So I know automatically, and this is one thing we could talk about, is getting that sign first. I know I started off talking about it and I got away from it. I know the answer is positive. And I know that I'm really going to subtract these. Now, we've talked about with the integer card game that if you had a negative 3 card and a positive 2 card, that it really didn't matter what order you had those cards. You could do the 2 card, then the negative 3 card. So I'm going to flip-flop this, and I'm going to get 5 minus 2 1/2. So I can go 5, once again, just like the last example, if I have a whole number and I'm taking away a fraction, or a mixed number, I can start by subtracting the whole number. So I can go 5 minus 2, which is 3, minus a half, which is 2 1/2. So this would be positive 2 1/2. Right. But the whole rule, the idea behind the rules is to get an idea of what the sign's going to be and what are you actually going to do with those numbers. Right. And I'm actually not going to bother putting this on a number line. I mean, we can. You know, you could go at negative 2 1/2, 1, 2 1/2, and then come back to the right 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can see that we're still at 2 1/2. But we're not always going to have number lines with us, so that's something we do have to consider. All right, find the following difference and represent it on a number line. So here we've got 1 minus 2 1/4, or a positive 1 combined together with a negative 2 1/4. Signs are different again. Subtract, keep the sign the larger. I know that the 2 1/4 is bigger than 1, so I know my answer is going to be negative. And now I just do the subtraction. 2 1/4 minus 1. Well, what we can do is just subtract the whole numbers. 1 1/4. Okay, or if we look at it this way, here's 0, 1, 2, 3. So we're at 2 1/4, which would be about there. And we're going to come back one whole, which would put us at 1 1/4. Whoops, I just did that and realized you didn't see. So let's trace this again. 1, 2 1/4. And then I'm going to come back 1. So I'm at 1 1/4. Yep, I just realized I totally messed this up. So we're going to forget about the last probably 35 seconds on this video because I just did this backwards. I should have started at negative 2 1/4 and went back. I was looking at this specifically as opposed to this. All right. Well, let's see if I can clean this up in one more example. Find the following difference. Okay, difference, sum, whatever. We're going to combine. But here's where this one, we have got our double negative. So there's a couple things we remember. Double negative becomes a plus. So I really have negative 5 1/2 and a positive 8. Signs are different. So once again, I'm going to be subtracting, taking the sign of the larger, which in this case, the positive is bigger than the negative. So I know my answer is positive. And I'm going to do 8 minus 5 1/2. Okay? It's important to get that sign, because when you get that sign, you don't have to worry about it when it's all said and done. You've already gotten the sign. So we can do 8 minus 5 again, which is 3 minus 1/2, 2 1/2. And in today's lesson, we're really just kind of focused on whole numbers and probably mixed numbers. All right, so you have some we do exercises on exercise 1, which is page 47. And then exercise 2, we start doing some word problems when that comes back to focus. And some independent practice there towards the end. So, all right, for day 5 lessons, this is Mr. Sims signing off.